fine. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. My name is Caroline. I'm going to be your guide for that beautiful scenic tour. It's a very easy tour. We drive. We're going to make a stop in Nice, but otherwise it will be drive panoramic tour. So I'm sure you'll enjoy it because the weather is pretty good for today. And your driver, so Caroline and Giuseppe. After the Vatican, we've got 2 square kilometers for about 40,000 inhabitants. Among the 40,000 inhabitants, only about 10,000 people have the passport, have the nationality. The majority of the inhabitants are therefore foreigners. They are called residents, and a resident is a foreign person who lives in Monaco half year in order not to pay income taxes. On the right-hand side, you can see Atlantis II, which belongs to Nyarkos family, and Royal Romance, which belongs to a Russian oligarch. The city of Monaco was originally founded on that hill, which is facing us. It's called Monaco City. It's the capital city, but we can call it also the Rock. And that is the place where the Greeks actually founded the first city. The Greeks were merchants, navigators, and they created a port here. And they erected a temple on their Acropolis, which means on their high city. And when you say a temple in Greek, one is mono and temple is ikos. Mono ikos, one temple, gave the current name Monaco, the city with a temple. So it has 5 districts. For many centuries, Monaco was just the hill and the port. And only as from second part 19th century, the city extended. To the right-hand side, first thing they built was Monte Carlo, that was achieved in the 1860s. Monte Carlo is what made Monaco rich and famous, thanks to gambling. In front of you, we can see the palace where Prince Albert is living with his wife Charlene and their 2 children, the twins, baby Jacques, baby Gabriella, who will be 4 years old next month. There are walls around the cities, and the walls were erected by Louis XIV, King of France during 17th century, because Monaco is an independent state, which does not belong to European Union, by the way, but it's under French protectorate. So there are plenty of political and economical agreements between France and Monaco. We are now going to drive on the track of the Formula 1 Grand Prix of Monaco, which takes place every year in May. You see on the right-hand side, we've got a Formula 1 car with a pilot called Fangio from the 1950s, and that's the beginning of the track. Goes along the port and then uphill, and you can see the green dome of the Grand Casino. Turn at the square of the Grand Casino and go back to port through a tunnel, and then a pier on the right-hand side, very close to the water, and then back where we are. They drive 78 laps plus 2 warm-ups on a track which is 3,300 meters long, which is about 2 miles. You can see some perpendicular lines on the floor, each for a different car. And in front of you, on the left-hand side, you can see 2 yellow buildings, between which is a grey platform. On that grey platform, they put the official bridge, and this is for Grimaldi family and local journalists. Of course, strategically built in, not built, but put in front of the platform. You've got in front of us now the pole position. The winner this year was from Australia, Ricciardo. The pilot who had the most numerous victories was Ayrton Senna from Brazil. Remember?
Yes.
But the one who was the fastest pilot here was Michael Schumacher from Germany. And during the Grand Prix, you can rent your terrace. And if you are the lucky owner of a condo, that's a good business, because the price is fixed by the government, about 2,500 euro per person. So if you've got 20 people, that's 50,000 euro for 2 hours. That's a good business. So that's the pier on which the Formula One car go on the right-hand side. You see very close to the water. So close that in the past, when the protections were not as good as today, some cars missed the curve and fell into the water. That's the famous chicane on the right-hand side. And in front of us, this is also part of the track, but the Formula One car go reverse. Front of you, left-hand side, some nice buildings, such as the Port Palace Hotel. You pay 5,000 per night, which is really not big for Monaco. Front of you, left-hand side, there's a new building which looks like a boat on the left, where Jean-Claude Van Damme has a second home, if you've heard of him. And in front of you, you've got the yacht show, which looks like a steamboat made by Norman Foster, very famous British architect. On the right-hand side, where your ship is a floating pier, which arrived here only like 10 years ago. Before that, a cruise ship would not have been able to stay in the port. Now that is the fastest part of the track of the Formula One Grand Prix. This is the tunnel called the Fairmont Tunnel. If you come during the Grand Prix, you have to wear something on your ear because you would become deaf. On the right-hand side, you've got a peninsula, which is called Cape Martin, where Coco Chanel was living in the 1920s. And at the background on the right-hand side, you can see mountains which are not part of Monaco and not even part of France, but Italy. In many parts of Monaco, you can see three countries in one side: Monaco, France, and Italy. The last district on the eastern end of the city is in front of you now. This district is called Larvoto, district of beaches, district of skyscrapers. This district was built by Rainier III, whose nickname was Prince Constructor. It's built on reclaimed land. It has the skyscrapers, the beaches. Non, ils veulent jusqu'au beach. Skyscrapers, and we've got also the Japanese garden. We're going to pass by the Grimaldi Forum, which is our convention center. So here it's a place for skyscrapers, beaches, conventions, and it's reclaimed land. On the opposite side of the principality, behind us, opposite side of the country, is another district built on reclaimed land. And perhaps you noted that on the water now, there's a big site. They are building a sixth district, which will be underwater, stolen from the sea, and which will represent about 20% of the principality, and that will be like in Dubai, more or less, like an island. On your right-hand side, so that's the convention center. We've got a lot of conventions, and every summer a very big exhibition, which is always something extraordinary that attracts lots of people from the world. The limit of Monaco is on your right-hand side. Is the round building, beige, flat, which is called the Sporting Club. Behind, there's a bigger building with three roofs and something flat and green in the middle. It's called Monte Carlo Bay Resort, and the Monte Carlo Bay Resort belongs to Monaco, but is located in France. When you want to see the limit between France and Monaco, it's very easy, it's the green. Because Monaco happens to be the most expensive state of the planet, where you pay around 72,000 euro for 1 square meter, or 10 square feet. Therefore, there's not 1 square meter which is not built in the Principality. And this is why you see white vegetation. You are sure that it's France that you're looking at. So Monaco is very expensive because if you stay in Monaco half year, you pay no income tax. So all the wealthy people of this world want to have their second home in Monaco, and this is why the Principality is so expensive. There's even a waiting list now. This is why they are building that island, because in spite of the economical crisis which still exists in Europe, we have more and more billionaires on the world. At this moment, I would like to ask you one or two questions, and the first question is, do you understand when I talk?
Yes.
Okay, so that's good.
Maybe.
I should have asked before, perhaps. So, second thing, where was your ship before today?
Marseille.
Marseille. So you were in Provence. That's the same region, more or less. And all right. And before, well, you were in Spain, I suppose.
No, Montpellier and Sète.
Ah, Montpellier said, "Oh, you know France very well now."
Yeah.
Okay, but the south of France is not France, really. I'm from Paris, which is north of France, and it's something a little bit different. We have to visit both places, actually.
Yes.
So, we have left Monaco, and you saw no physical border. So I remind you that there are plenty of agreements between Monaco and France. Currency is euro, official language is French. Rainier III, Prince of Monaco, signed the Constitution in 1962, but President of French Republic, Charles de Gaulle, in the 1960s, also had to sign. And very important, Monaco has no army, but in case of an international conflict, they fight at the sides of France. For instance, Rainier III, dad of current Prince Albert, was a captain in the French army during the Second World War. Ça fait une heure que j'essaye de...
We've left Monaco.
Je te remercie. Alors, merci, gars. So in many places in Monaco, we've got the limit between France and Monaco. We are the limit right now. And sometimes on one side of the road is a building, opposite side of the road, the exact same building, but one side you pay your apartment like 500,000 euro. Opposite side you will pay the exact same apartment over 3 million euro. And so this is why Monaco is so expensive today. So on the right hand side we've got the tennis court. You know, Monaco has a lot of sport. They have the Grand Prix, they have the football, they have the Open of Golf in September, the Rolex Tennis Masters in April, they have diving, they have equestrian, but they don't have room for many sports. They don't have room for tennis courts, they don't have room for golf courses. So they organize the challenge, but it takes place in France. So, Monaco is run by Albert II. Remember that Albert is the son of Rainier III and Grace Kelly Grimaldi. Albert is now 60 years old. He married only 6 years ago, Charlene from South Africa, who is 20 years younger. And Albert has two sisters. Caroline is 61, married 3 times, never divorced. And then we've got Stephanie, who married twice, divorced twice. Caroline has 4 children, and Stephanie has 3 children. Monaco has a lot of security. We've got 1 policeman for about 32 people. There is a camera at every corner of every single street. And if ever a thief was lost, they need only about 50 seconds to close the whole country. But that's not to protect us. That's to protect the money, the 60 international banks. So there's a lot of money in Monaco. I don't tell you how much money. Nobody knows how much money. Just to tell you an indication, the nickname is the laundry. So we've got here, we are in France, and you know France is divided into various regions, which are called départements. And our department is at the extreme southeast Italy. It includes the Principality of Monaco and it's called maritime Alps. Maritime, that's the Mediterranean Sea, and Alps, the chain of mountain of Europe. But in fact, here we are only 15% maritime and 85% mountains. That's why we have skiing resorts 1 hour drive away from here. Mountains higher than 12,000 feet and snow until May every year. Sometimes, like during Easter holidays, we swim in the sea in the morning, we ski on the snow in the afternoon. So that region of Maritime Alps is now totally French. But in the past and for many centuries, it was split into 2 parts. The western side, where Cannes, Antibes are located, Cannes, if you heard of the film festival, always belonged to France. But the eastern side, where we are, was the property of the Dukes of Savoy, which means was part of northern Italy for many centuries. And today, that part of the region where we stay together today, now has a very strong Italian culture. France and Italy have spent their whole history fighting against each other to take the county of Nice, because that region strategically is very well located. It's a passage from France to Italy, from the Alps to the sea, on the way to northern and southern Europe. And to make war cost a lot of money, so the region was very poor until the arrival of the British winter tourists who began to come beginning 19th century. So it's in 1860 that a French emperor, Napoleon III, received the keys of the county of Nice. He demilitarized the region, unified the region, dismantled the walls around the cities, built bridges on the rivers, built railway, and 1860 is the beginning of La Belle Époque, our golden age. Beautiful palaces, hotels, gambling casinos, horse races, palaces, villas were built to shelter and entertain the wealthy winter tourists who were spending for 5 months every year. And here it was only winter tourism until 1930s. And you had to have the white skin, because the poor workers obliged to stay outside all day long had the suntan. And you didn't want to look like a poor worker, so you were carrying your umbrella during your winter vacation, even when you had a great sunshine. And only in the 1930s began the fashion of sea bath, sun bath, summer vacation. And then you had to have the suntan, because it proved that you were wealthy enough to afford your summer vacation on French Riviera. So we are in France, but you're going to have towards Monaco on the left-hand side within a minute. Tu as vu l'heure à laquelle on est parti à peu près?
Midi 55.
D'accord. Alors on a 3h30 de tour, donc mettons que ce soit 1 heure, ça fait 1, 2, 3, 4h30, entre 4h15 et 4h30. On a le temps. So as I said before, those who civilized the region were Greeks. The Greeks imported here grape and olive, taught us how to make wine and olive oil, which are the 2 bases of local alimentation, which is not the case for all France. I'm talking about this very region where you are. No cream, no butter for cooking, just olive oil. So you're going to see that we have quite a lot of green everywhere, and that might seem amazing, considering that we've got over 300 days of sunshine per year. The fact is that although having a lot of sunshine, we also have a lot of rain, because when it rains here, it's 3, 4, 5 days, cats and dogs. We've got an average of 3.5 feet of heat of rain per year, which is more than in Paris. For instance, recently it was pouring, cats and dogs, many rivers overflew. It's really terrible sometimes, but it enables the landscape to be pretty green, with a lot of Mediterranean plants, of course, but also tropical and subtropical plants. The fashion of exotic gardens was launched by the British winter tourists during 19th century. Among the plants that you see, the only ones which are originally from here are the pine trees. Everything else was imported. For instance, in front of you, cypress trees were imported from Tuscany by the Romans. And they are the symbols of the immortality of the souls because they never get rotten. So we have a lot of them in our cemeteries, near our chapels and churches. So Romans came here about 1 century before Christ on request of the Greeks, who, being merchants, were very wealthy, attracting plenty of pirates and barbarians, but could hardly get rid of their enemies, and asked for the help of their Roman allies, who came and began from here the conquest of France and Europe. Left-hand side, Monaco. So, closer to us, you see the new district with the skyscrapers, then Monte Carlo with the green dome of the Grand Casino, made by Charles Garnier, the port with your ship, and Monaco. You know, Monaco was nothing but a poor fisherman country, but during 19th century, all the wealthy people of Europe were spending their winters on French or Italian Riviera, and you had to entertain these people. But gambling was forbidden in France and forbidden in Italy. So a guy had a great idea. Prince Charles III Grimaldi bought a hill from a French agriculturer, gave his own name to the hill, the Mountain of Charles, Monte Carlo in Italian, and asked the best architect of his time to create a gambling casino there. And thanks to gambling, Monaco became rich and famous within just a few years. So that in 1900, Monaco was very wealthy, and 97% of their big money was provided by gambling.